I've always been somewhat skeptical of any new technology being introduced into the gaming market. Part of this stems from the fact that over time, there have just been many more duds and failures over the years than actual smart and revolutionary technology. Things like the Nintendo Power Glove or the Nintendo Virtual Boy sounded like a good idea at the time, but in theory didn't work out so well, especially when the Power Glove unit was just not responsive during gameplay, and the graphics for all the games on the Virtual Boy almost felt like it was purposely trying to burn the retina in your eyes. Through some trial and error, over the years we've seen technology progress and offer some much more stable and reliable experiences. Things like the Nintendo Wii's motion controller, the PlayStation 2's iToy, and even the Sega Dreamcast's microphone device for the game Seaman. Creepy. Still, a few duds over the years that didn't really have anything new to offer. But as video game technology goes through these trial and error phases, lessons get learned, and game developers, along with game companies, have gotten smarter over the years and are taking more intelligent risks that will lead to better success rates and a more stable and reliable experience. One of the things I've always been a big fan of and a big supporter of in video games is virtual reality. It's come a long way and is probably one of the most immersive experiences you can have in a video game. I mean, you literally feel like you're in the game. So imagine my delight when Sony first announced that they would be creating the PSVR in 2016. The only opportunity I ever had at playing any VR games prior to the PSVR was always at Dave & Buster's after slamming back 7 pints of beer and 5 shots of Jameson at my nephew's 5th birthday party. Knowing Sony and how they usually had a decent track record with experimenting with new technology for gaming, I was all in on the idea of them throwing their hats into the VR realm. Over its short life, the PSVR has built up quite a library of games, and one of the games that I've always come back to, even as of late, is the game Moss, released in 2018. It's a clever action-adventure puzzle game told in a fairy tale storybook presentation. It's simple, yet has an incredible amount of charm that does have a lasting impact on you, especially if you are new to VR gaming. The developers Polyarc, led by former Bungie and Rockstar game developers, developed this game as the company's first title. Founded in 2015 by Tam Armstrong, Chris Alderson, and Danny Beulah, Polyarc's sole purpose is for creating games for virtual reality. And so, on this episode of The Select, we delve into Moss and the adventure of our little mouse heroine, Quill. How does it fare out from a team that worked on the Halo games and the Grand Theft Auto games? Subscribe to The Select Gaming to keep up to date with all our latest videos. This is Moss for the PlayStation VR.
Your time has come at last, dear reader. While we began this tale long ago, we hope it is yours to finish.
Our journey of Moss begins where we, the gamer, or in this case, the reader, is presented with a storybook tale of the character of Quill. After she finds a mysterious glass shard while traveling through the forest close to town, she befriends us, the reader. She then shares this discovery with her uncle Argus, who seems deeply troubled by this unearthing. Afraid that the glass shard is a remnant of the past and fearing that old evils may once again be descending upon the land, Uncle Argus then embarks on a journey towards an undisclosed danger, but mentions that he will return to her before midnight. However, soon afterwards during nighttime, while Quill is in deep sleep, a starling finds her and tells her that her uncle Argus has been captured by evil on his voyage, and that she must rise to the occasion to save him. With her sword in hand, and we, the trusty reader, as her sidekick, we then embark on this adventure to save Quill's uncle. The presentation of Moss is that of a top-down action-adventure puzzle game, where each different section will have Quill usually entering from frame left and have her exiting on frame right to the next section of the game. In between point A to point B, it's up to us, the reader, to help guide Quill through these obstacles and puzzle our way around the environments to help Quill continue her journey. You'll pull stones out of sections to make bridges for Quill to walk across, rotate staircases to help her reach destinations, and sometimes, if you look hard enough, you may even catch your own reflection somewhere unexpected. You'll carry out most of your action and movement by utilizing the PlayStation 4's motion control by moving your blue orb around the screen and grabbing hold of items or objects with the R2 button. You'll also be controlling Quill's movement with the left analog stick, have her jump with the X button, and swing her sword at enemies with the square button. For healing her from time to time, by hovering your blue orb over her and pulling her up by her tail with the R2 button, you'll then trigger and send a boost of energy through her fur to have her regain her full health once again. There is a big emphasis on exploring with your eyes over corners and ledges to see how you can navigate Quill around from section to section in the best way possible. And having the constant bird's eye view does help with us high above Quill. The puzzles and sections, as you could guess, start off minimal and simple. You'll move a stone here and there to make a once inaccessible pathway accessible, and open doors or press buttons at just the right time for Quill to continue to move forward. The puzzles and enemies become more difficult and stronger as the game progresses. Part of me wants to say that this game is for a younger audience, but that's not necessarily the case. The puzzles are a bit of a brain scratcher, and they are a bit time consuming on your first playthrough. But Moss is a game where I could see young adults having no problem with the puzzles, but does stray further on the harder side, so inexperienced gamers may find some of its puzzles a bit tricky. Luckily, Moss is one of those games that requires very little skill and is very forgiving. You don't run out of lives, and it's pretty good at restarting you at checkpoints throughout the process of solving puzzles. You start off exactly where you left off if you accidentally fall off a cliff or end up getting killed by an enemy. For all the beautiful things in the wonderful gameplay that exists within Moss, the game is aware of its minor flaws, and this generous element of allowing you to be able to try again quickly from where you left off is an incredibly welcomed approach to the game design, in my opinion. Just because it's a puzzle game, it shouldn't mean that it should be frustrating, and Moss has a nice balance between the casualness of the puzzles with the forgiving environment and the forgiving gameplay. Particularly the green door levels of the game, these levels will sort of make you feel like it's the only time that you're actually being challenged in Moss. The green door levels sort of operate like side quests. Defeating these bosses and these puzzles and obstacles are a bit more difficult, but it makes for a little bit more depth in this all but simple linear game. I personally loved interacting with the Toad, and just having this lore of this mouse world expanded on by this otherworldly dimension. However, if you don't take advantage of snooping around with the VR goggles, you might not notice the green pixie dust that lurks in the corners or is hidden away. So these green door levels are sort of up to you to discover through exploration. The green door levels add to a bit more of the lore of the world, and it does also add a little bit more extra time to the game, where the original runtime of the game will probably take you around 2.5 hours to beat. Completing the green door level missions adds about another hour of gameplay. Now, with many virtual reality games, I sometimes ask myself if it even needed to be in the format of VR, and with Moss, it certainly does amp up the environments and really does feel more immersive as you watch the adventure of this mouse from above. You'll constantly be moving your head around sections of the levels and peeking over stones or leaves to figure out the best way to get Quill to her destination. I myself would even stand up from time to time off my couch just to get a better, higher up view. And for that reason alone, the game really does take advantage of the VR technology and encourages the gamer to snoop around before jumping to any conclusions and making sure that they didn't miss anything. The game does a good job of really making you feel like a spectator. Seeing these beautiful worlds, specifically the churches with the stained glass windows or places like the little houses that they live in, are just so cool to look at through VR. You do feel like you're peeking into the lives of these little creatures. Moss is a very polished game with little to no hiccups during gameplay, and if there are, it's only because of readjusting your VR headset or resetting the position of the layout from the menu screen, which is a typical thing while playing VR games. With just the right number of moments of solitude and epic visuals, Moss feels like a fairy tale adventure, all reinforced by intervals of you returning to the library to continue turning the pages to find out how this journey will end. From seeing videos of Moss, its graphics are simple and clean, powered by the Unreal Engine, but it does feel significantly more impactful when playing it through VR. It's a mostly static game with the only sort of movement from your own head motion. So it's a good game for someone who would otherwise get a bit motion sick while playing more dynamic VR games. With its short runtime of completing Moss in about 3 to 4 hours, it's something that you could comfortably play through in one sitting if you're brave enough, or come back to at a reasonable checkpoint from where you left off from. Moss also has a level select after you beat the game, and that comes in handy if you're looking to get those trophy achievements that you missed the first time around. There is no doubt that Moss is an entertaining and fun game that will appeal to a wide range of gamers. At the end of Moss, you really feel a connection to Quill, a character whom you've shared this journey with and protected, and for me, that speaks volumes about the immersive nature of the game. With the VR market, it does feel at times that there is an overabundance of mature-leaning POV shooter games, and developers have seemingly become obsessed with developing first-person experiences for VR, not thinking outside of the medium. Moss, even though a short game and not all that revolutionary in its gameplay, does offer a strong contrast of gameplay and perspective in this POV VR-dominated market. I'm always fascinated to see developers who come from big game studios starting their own game companies and working on projects that they truly have a passion for. Moss for Polyarc feels like that, and you can tell that a lot of hard work went into this title from this indie dev team. It was enough to warrant a sequel with Moss Book 2, and was also met with strong sales along with generally favorable reviews. For myself, it's a franchise that I'll definitely support and keep an eye on in the future. Moss is a strong achievement from a small team of developers at Polyarc, and a great addition to the world of indie VR games. Thank you for joining me on this episode of The Select Gaming. If you like what you've seen and heard, give us a like and subscribe. This is Dusty Maxwell, and we'll see you on the next one.